These popular men's fragrances are notorious for having bad performance. I'm going to give you some alternatives to them and also some general hacks to make any fragrance last longer. Let's begin. Let's talk about Creed Aventus first of all. Creed Aventus is a notorious fragrance that used to be much longer lasting in 2010. In the earlier batches, it was beautiful. It smelled so much more rich. I can attest to this. I used to think this fragrance was actually magical and easily worth its price tag. Scent profile is not bad, but it's now lackluster in regards to the competition it has nowadays. A lot of people got inspired by Aventus and made their own take or fantastic clones of it. The most accurate clone, I'd say, is Haramain's L'Aventure, which lasts 8 hours in comparison to my bottle lasting here 4 to 6 hours. This is my 2021 bottle or 2022 bottle, something like that. So fairly new. And then if you want an even better performing clone of Aventus, go for Armaf's Club de Nuit Intense Eau de Parfum, which gives me 12 hours longevity. There are also other alternatives in a similar price range that smell more worth their price tag in my opinion, such as Nishane's Hacivat, as well as something like Sospiro Vibrato, which of course is not a clone of Creed Aventus, it's closer to something like Tygar, but that Tygar-esque family of fragrances in general actually to me smell like they are inspired by Creed Aventus. They are smoky, citrus, woody fragrances, but they're not Creed Aventus. They're not pineapple based, they're not really clones, but sort of like they've taken that idea in a very different direction, but it's still some mass appeal, some similarities in function between these two different families. And of course, you can also go for Cedrat Boise Intense, which is fantastic value for money. Not really a clone of Creed Aventus. Again, it's more of its own thing, but again, similar function. YSL's LOM, the original. This is one of the most handsome, ginger-based woody amber fragrances ever made. Ginger is a really sexy, warm, spicy note that can really make any man smell handsome. It's underrated. Unfortunately, this lasts about 4 hours. Overspray to your heart's content, but if you want an alternative to this, it's quite difficult. I don't really think any of the flankers have impressed me so far from what I've tried. I used to own LOM Ultime, which was a great scent, but it went in its own different direction. It's not exactly the same as the original. The original is still worth owning, but if you want an alternative that lasts a bit longer, go for something like Naseem's African Sunset. Naseem sponsored one of our videos recently and I really like that release from them. African Sunset smells to me like a mixture of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Ultra Mal because it has that sort of fruity pear bubblegum feeling mixed with ginger woody ambers that reminds me of YSL LOM. So it's kind of like a mixture of those two fragrances together. It lasts about 8 to 10 hours. It was pretty impressive for the price especially. 37.9% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys really want to see our channel grow, go ahead and click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. And then we have La Nuit de l'Homme by YSL as well. Beautiful nighttime release of the same line, but now it's more focused on warmer notes like cardamom in here. So spicy woody amber again, very balanced, a beautiful scent. Both are still worth owning, but again, lasts about 4 hours. Get Bleu Électrique if you can. That's a modernized, better version of the original. If you can't, go for La Nuit de l'Homme Le Parfum, which is a spicy, fruity, bad boy-esque take on the DNA. I think it's a really underrated flanker, super sexy, super enticing evening scent. I think more guys should check out. Whilst this lasts 4 hours, Le Parfum lasts about 6 hours, which is not bad. Bleu de Chanel. I'm holding the Eau de Parfum here. Most people own the Eau de Toilette or the Eau de Parfum. It's a blue fragrance that's sexy, timeless, classic, gentlemanly, deep woody ambers with some darkness in here and citruses as well to balance it out. However, a lot of people complain about performance with Bleu de Chanel. With the EDP, I personally get 8 hours. If you want to improve performance, you're just going to have to splash out with your money and go for the Parfum, which gives you more of a focus on the sandalwood note. Sandalwood is a very long-lasting base note, one of the best notes in perfumery, in my opinion, probably my favorite fragrance of all time, and it'll give you around 12 hours from my experience. A little bit more mature, but still pretty similar to the Bleu de Chanel DNA. None of the three concentrations are massively different from each other, but the Parfum, I would say, is just about the best out of the three. Another alternative I'd like to recommend is Arabian Oud Signature Pour Homme, which is not a clone at all. It's its own original thing, but it has that sort of similar feeling. It's a woody, ambery based fragrance. A lot of cardamom in here. This smells very Middle Eastern. This is sort of like a Middle Eastern Bleu de Chanel, sort of like it would fit that same function as Bleu de Chanel. It's a similar feeling. Doesn't smell as complex, but it's much more beastly. 12 hours, at least a medium projection, maybe even medium to loud projection. A very good release. You should definitely check it out. Versace Pom. This is a great watery, citrus, neroli based fragrance, very soapy, clean and musky and sharp. This is a classical men's fragrance that's timeless. This came out maybe 20 years ago, well, almost 20 years ago, and to me, it's going to be a timeless classic. It's always going to be relevant, very safe, grab and go, more for the warm weather, but I think you can just throw this in your gym bag, for example, just take it around with you wherever you go, and you know you're going to smell fresh and clean. This lasts about 4 to 6 hours. This is the kind of fragrance you need to overspray and spray heavily on your clothing as well. The alternative to this is Chanel's Allure Sport. They have a lot of similarities between the two. People know this, but I personally get 8 hours with Allure Sport, the original, whilst this gives me 4 to 6 hours. So try Allure Sport. It may not give you 8 hours. I'm one of the few people who say it does, and maybe you get something less with it, but I think it's a better long-lasting alternative to this. Then we have Dolce&Gabbana's the One Eau de Parfum. A really sexy, safe evening fragrance that has a nice balance of woody ambers, cardamom, ginger, and tobacco. One of the best natural smelling designer fragrances out there. I think the blend is phenomenal, and I get maybe 6 to 8 hours with this blend with Eau de Parfum, but most guys don't. Most people say they get 4 hours. So fair enough, I still want to give you alternatives. You can go for Jazz Club by Maison Margiela, which has a very similar feeling, but it's a little bit more niche, a little bit more complex, focusing on more boozy notes in there while still having similar notes to the One Eau de Parfum otherwise. I get 6 hours with that fragrance, so maybe it's not a huge difference for myself, but it might be for you. Otherwise, potentially you can try Bvlgari's Man in Black, the Eau de Parfum, or the Nuit Parfum, which to me smells quite similar from what I've tried in the testers in stores or on paper strip. So I don't have huge experience with it, but it seems very similar. It is boozy, warm, ambery, spicy, very similar facets and interesting notes to Dolce&Gabbana's the One Eau de Parfum, although it smells a bit more leathery, a bit more mature, a bit more serious and thick. So it has similar notes, but a different feeling overall. I remember for my Bvlgari Man in Black, the EDP, or the original at least, I got 10 hours longevity. So the Parfum is probably performing even better nowadays. So try it out. Jean-Paul Gaultier's Le Male, the original, a revolutionary scent for its time that took a traditional barbershop shaving cream scent, made it sugary sweet. This is lavender, mint, and vanilla. It is very balanced, very sexy, powdery, very distinct. Everyone knows this DNA. If you smell it, you just recognize it very easily. It got gutted though. In 2011, the performance went down to about 6 hours. This used to be a very long-lasting, very loud fragrance. The alternatives nowadays are going to be something like Le Le Parfum, which is more romantic leaning, a bit more mature, more modern, but has the strongest similarities to the original that the flankers have nowadays from the ones that exist nowadays. So Le Le Parfum is the closest. Le Male Elixir would be my recommendation if you want a louder clubbing scent. More vanilla based, some similarities to the original, but it feels like a more modern creation. It feels like it's more of the 2020s style, very different to what the 90s produced. This is a 90s baby. So those are my 2 fragrance recommendations. Otherwise, you can still go for the original. 6 hours is not bad, soft to medium projection. It's more of a day-night fragrance, which is okay. I still think it's worth owning the original. And lastly, Valentino Born in Roma Coral Fantasy. A really sexy, musky, red apple, woody amber bubblegum scent that has nice balance. This is fun, but still playful, still fresh. This can be used for clubbing, used for school, used as your signature all year round. So it's got great versatility. It's very sexy, probably the best from the Valentino Born in Roma line right now, but it has limited performance for around 6 hours. If you want a fun, fruity, woody amber scent that's louder and longer lasting, you can go for Zara's The Most Wanted Parfum. It doesn't have those fruity notes listed in this note breakdown, but to me, they are there. It is fruity, woody amber. I feel like both fragrances have some inspiration from the Stronger With You line. They both kind of give off that vibe, but they do it in their own ways. The Most Wanted Parfum has more of an evening scent vibe. It's got less versatility, so bear that in mind. You are trading off performance for something else in that regard. I will give you guys 3 tips to improve performance of any fragrance though, if you still want to stick to these originals, you don't want to go for the alternatives. First of all, spray more. I'm a sissy sprayer myself, but some fragrances you can just overspray to your heart's content. You really need to do large differences to what your usual routine is. If you do 4 sprays usually, sometimes you can go with fragrances like Versace Pom, you can go for like 15 sprays and you'll still be fine. Number 2, spray more on clothes. Clothing traps fragrances more than skin does, so you get better longevity but less projection. And thirdly, utilize a fragrance booster like Eccentric Molecule 02. A lot of people know about Molecule 01, which is pure ISOE Super. People use that as a base and then spray another fragrance on top of it to increase longevity. But ISOE Super is already present in large amounts in the vast majority of fragrances on the market right now. Molecule 02 is pure ambroxan, which is a note that's much more rare compared to ISOE Super. Ambroxan gives you a warm, woody, amber, musky base that's meant to replicate ambergris. This boosts longevity by around 2 hours in my experience and doesn't affect the scent profile that much from my experience as well. So I recommend Molecule 2, try to get it if you can, or go for unbranded Ambroxan if you want as well, from a trusted vendor. Performance issues can be annoying, guys, hence why I think a lot of guys now go to niche perfumes for more reliable performance, which is a bit sad because then you're paying a lot more. However, there are still some designer classics that are still worth getting, even though the performance isn't great. Hopefully these hacks I've given you today, guys, also help. If you guys have any other tips for how to improve the longevity of fragrances, let us know in the comments down below, guys. Do you guys agree or disagree with the alternatives I have given today to these popular short-lasting fragrances? If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our previous video of don't buy these popular fragrances, buy these instead. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.